Hi, I'm Jessie Heron, host of Rediscover Your Story, a podcast for marketers who need a break from everyday learning, but still want to hear from like-minded professionals on all things creative. Today, we have Roger David. He's the CEO of Gold Star. And let me tell you, you're going to want to stick around for this entire episode because the disruption that he's making in the chili industry is juicy.
We've won so many blind taste tests by even the chefs in Cincinnati. They put together like 4 or 5 leading chefs in Cincinnati and did a blind taste test. And we came out on top.
On which categories?
Chili, on the chili side.
Okay.
On the chili side. I said, look, anybody gives you a hard time about selling burgers, tell them I'm taking them to lunch.
Oh, good.
And I would take them to lunch.
Stop it.
And it's only happened a couple times, but the offer's always made. And I would buy them lunch. We'd go, we'd have a burger, and I'd get their feedback directly. Yeah, it's kind of ironic that my trainer went out and had a double bacon cheeseburger. So I guess I'll have one now.
Yeah, me too.
So, if you believe in what you're doing, you got to go all in. We believe that we have a very competitive brand. We feel like we have all the systems in place.
But first, if you're loving Rediscover Your Story, go ahead and smash that bell and subscribe on YouTube. And don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, and wherever you can get your streaming content. And hey, if you're interested in who we are at Resolve, we're a video content agency, and we can help you create your video content marketing just like we're doing with the podcast. Please follow along at our website, resolve.com. That's RESLV.com. Subscribe to our newsletter and never hesitate to reach out to us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We can't wait to hear from you. Let's rediscover Roger's story. Roger, thanks for being on the Rediscover Your Story podcast. It's great to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. This is excellent. And what a great space that you have here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have an old firehouse here in our Resolve studio, and I can't wait to dig into the origin of Gold Star.
Well, I've told the story a few times, and I love talking about it. So thank you for asking.
I'm really curious to know about the Cincinnati chili origin. I mean, I think every household in Cincinnati has like their own little recipe, or they have their own little, fandom to a specific chili here in Cincinnati.
Depending on where you grew up.
But we're known for chili in Cincinnati. How did this kind of come to be a thing?
It's kind of crazy, but Empress chili kind of started it all. And, definitely Greek origins. And from Empress was born Dixie, and then was born Skyline, and then ultimately was born Gold Star. But back in the day, every neighborhood had their own little chili parlor. There was the St. Bernard chili, there's Price Hill chili. Every neighborhood kind of had their own little version of it. It all started back in the late 20s. Franchising really wasn't a thing then. And so a lot of Greek immigrants were helping other immigrants start their own businesses. And in part, they would often share a recipe, or they would sell them the product, and they would then be up in business. But that didn't really have a very good reoccurring revenue stream to it. And so a lot of those early folks that started off just didn't have the sustainability. So Skyline came about in the 40s. We came around in the mid 60s. But our story was that we bought a restaurant called Hamburger Heaven, which was a descendant from the Empress Dixie line.
Really?
And then with it came this recipe for chili. And so we were thinking about this idea of expanding the menu and bringing the burgers back. And, it was, disruptive in a sense that, we were really known for being fast, and, to make a fresh made-to-order burger could have slowed things down. And we were able to work through that and really not let that be a factor. And so we have great single and double burgers today that have really caught on. So we've got a pretty good reputation in the burger category.
I have heard that they are delicious.
They are great.
I have not had one myself, but I have heard that.
Bacon double cheeseburger. You've got to have one.
Okay.
And then you got to tell me what you think.
I will.
But we are very proud of the product we're putting out.
And your trainer had one and liked it.
Yes.
So apparently it's on some sort of diet.
Yeah. He didn't even know, right? He's on some diet plan. He didn't even know we had burgers, and I had to explain to him that we did. And so he went out and had a double bacon cheeseburger. And then, it's kind of ironic that my trainer went out and had a double bacon cheeseburger. So I guess I'll have one now.
Yeah, me too.
They are amazing.
Oh, yeah?
They're amazing.
Here he goes.
Yeah. I have a friend of mine who is an avid Gold Star connoisseur, and he told me that you guys were selling burgers, and I didn't believe him. Right. And so he DoorDashed some Gold Star burgers for us one day, and he was absolutely right. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
But so let me just ask then.
Yeah.
So everybody who has been like the fans of Gold Star, I mean, hearing that, like what Steve said, where they're diving in and they love the burgers.
So some people were like, "What? That's crazy! You know, like, what are they doing? They're losing they've lost their compass.
Right,
You know,
like,
they lost their direction. They don't know what they're doing."
Yeah. Did you get like backlash on Twitter?
A little bit.
And, yeah.
Yep. But then we just, I told our social team, I said, "Look, anybody gives you a hard time about selling burgers, tell them I'm taking them to lunch."
Oh, good.
And I would take them to lunch.
Stop it.
And it's only happened a couple times, but the offer's always made. And I would buy them lunch. We'd go, we'd have a burger, and I'd get their feedback directly.
That's perfect.
Is that great? Yeah,
That's
and I'm
really
still willing to
perfect.
do that.
Yeah.
That's an offer. Strategically, now we're in a different kind of place. And we had all sorts of operational challenges, right? Can we still keep speed of service where we need it to be? Chili restaurants were faster than the fast food guys because before you even sit down, we knew what your order was when we saw you walking in because we had regulars coming in.
There's the cracker. I mean, there's like a little bit of an appetizer, if you will, to kind of get your palate going.
Right.
But as a mom, I remember when my kids were young, and if we needed something quick and they were in cranky, hangry moods, you go to a chili establishment because it's easy. Yeah. And you can just pile a bunch of cheese right there in front of them and the crackers, and you go.
You know, what's so funny is that, while we were researching this and investigating it and feeling our way through it, everybody was concerned about service time. They're like, well, how are we going to cook a fresh burger made to order, get it out as quick as I can get out a three-way or a cheese coney? And it was a great challenge. Initially, the idea was to do little sliders, but we realized it takes just as long to make. It takes longer to make three little sliders than it would make a burger. So then we went back to the burger side of things, and then somebody said to me, just in passing, and this is the value of being in an office setting versus working remotely. Yeah, because this was in passing in a hallway. Somebody said to me, we could probably afford to slow it down a little and still be considered fast. And that was like the biggest light bulb that went off for me.
I'm breakthrough.
Like, right. It's like, okay. So the three-way, your order gets there 20 seconds slower, maybe, because we're still not sure, maybe gets there 20 seconds later. That's not a deal breaker with any consumer. And so, once we started getting into it, we realized that, there really isn't that big of a service time issue, but that was a big hurdle to get over. Yeah. And our research still tells us we're really fast. So that's good. Speed's important for the busy consumer these days.
Sure. Yeah, but that is a really interesting thing to take away, is that you can afford to slow it down a little bit and you're still quick.
Yeah.
Wow, what a
gem.
So
that was cool. So I enjoyed that. And then at the same time, not only were we expanding the menu in that fashion, we were adding, garlic parm fries, which are the best in the city, if you ask me. And
now I know what I want for lunch, by the way.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't have
that. So we had some fun with a few additional menu items, and it's working really, really well.
It almost feels like you're bringing it back to I don't know, just like a Sonic's, or the days where you go to get the burger and the shake, and then you have those options, and It's just a nice differentiation
Yeah.
between all the other kind of foods. And it feels, while it's chain, it still feels like that family establishment.
Yeah.
Is that kind of
So
the
here's
goal
the-
or how? What?
Here's the other piece of it that I think is another layer strategically is the barrier to expanding outside of Cincinnati is that chili is not an entree and chili is on your name.
Yeah.
And so the education that you have to provide to get people to not only try it once, you got to tell them, well, you don't order it in a bowl. You got to throw it over spaghetti or have a cheese coney.
Right.
And then you got to get them in there 3 times before they're like, okay, maybe I could kind of enjoy. Well, it's hard enough to get somebody in a place once, let alone 3 times, right? So the word chili just was too polarizing. And so, you were looking at other competitors in the burger space, like a Steak and Shake, for example, which has waitress service and serves in China and has burgers and steaks and actually I think serves a chili spaghetti. So, and they're doing some really high volumes. And so it's a head scratcher. You're like, well, wait a minute here. We can kind of rebrand ourselves in a way that gives us more market appeal because everybody in town already knows us as Gold Star Chili.
Right.
But out of town, if you go as Gold Star Chili, then they're going to pigeonhole you into that chili space. But if you remove the word chili from it, and now you're just Gold Star, and you're out of town, then it kind of opens people's curiosity to figure out what are you serving and what are you all about. And now all of a sudden, I think it makes us a lot more appealing to expand outside of Cincinnati. And so we've removed the word chili from our logo and are now, now we're Gold Star.
Gold Star.
Yeah.
Well, and it gives you that opportunity to flex your brand muscle too, and just kind of flex. And what I love about what you're saying is you also have to rely on, you have these brand ambassadors all over, you have all these locations, you have franchising, but then you also have people who are physically serving to your customers. And how do you keep like a pulse on these brand ambassadors or these servers?
So, it's a lot of communication and recognition. And we have a great HR department that works very closely with our operations department. We're in the field constantly, and it's a nice, it's really kind of a nice culture that we're kind of cultivating throughout, and we're primarily franchised, and so we have franchise owners out there as well, and I would say that the people side of things is probably the hardest part of our business, but it's also the most rewarding part.
Yeah. And I mean, really, you've got kind of, I don't know, you probably, with all the changes that you've made, you have this opportunity to have a great communication and a great message to all of the employees.
Well, ultimately results matter. And so when you can show such great results, then people kind of have a sense to want to be a part of that, rally behind it, take their own ownership stake in that result. And that's, there's the metric side of it. And then there's the kind of the internal kind of reward and emotional side of it. So.
What's your favorite part? What do you like to dive into?
So I would say I am, I lean into kind of the visionary strategic side of things. And so making the menu change, upgrading all our facilities. So every one of our locations has been remodeled. And that kind of went hand in hand with the expanded menu. And when you combine the remodeling with the expanded menu, we got the best kind of return on that investment. And strategically making decisions and, when you're consulting, you can kind of make the strategic decision and consult with a client, but ultimately they've got to execute.
Right.
And, sometimes it gets a little watered down. Sometimes it doesn't even get executed. But when you're playing both, where you're both the person coming up with the strategic direction and you've got to execute, that's pretty cool. And so
you get to see it all kind of play out too.
One of my favorite conversations was with my uncle Frank, who's passed, but I told him, hey, I'm going to remove the name Chili from our logo. And he would say in his accents, "What are you talking about, man? You can't. That is what we are. How are people going to know what we are? What are you? You can't do that, man." And I'm like, I'm telling you.
Is that the emotional family side that we're experiencing?
Yeah. And so it was just, and I just kept saying, hey, we've got to let go of something in order to kind of reach for something that might be bigger and better for us. And,
Did you have to pitch twice, basically?
Oh, I had to pitch 100 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was constantly a conversation before we pulled the cord. And
was Christmas awkward or?
It's funny. I do a lot of business with family members, but I still get invited to Thanksgiving
That's
dinner.
good.
So so that's.
They still want to break bread with you.
Good.
That's
they
important.
Want to break bread. Yeah. So, that is one of the things I'm proud of. While there's always conflict, but to have 4 brothers start a business, have that pass on to second generation now of 16 of us kind of involved, and not necessarily involved day to day. I'm the only one that's a family member involved day to day, but that are connected to the company as shareholders. We really have stayed a tight-knit family through all of that. And I don't think that's very common. And so I think that's probably what I'm most proud of.
That's really exciting. Yeah. I'll say that there's a couple times I heard you say strategic direction.
Yeah.
And I just want to call that out as something really cool. We recently had author Ryan Hayes on our podcast, and his book is called Strategist First.
Oh, yeah.
And it's about avoiding the strategy trap and always saying it's a plan. A strategy is a plan. And he's really leaning more into the fact that a strategy is a what, a strategist is a who. And he talks about it, instead of being a strategic plan, it was a strategic direction.
Oh, that's
You're
interesting.
the first person I've actually heard say naturally a direction.
Oh, I love that you just pointed that out, because I'm feel my way through it and we'll figure it out as we go.
Yes.
And so for me, that's just a direction. I'm going to step in this direction.
Yes.
We're going to assess, and I might step in this other direction. We're going to assess. That's kind of the way I just approach it. It's interesting.
So it's intentional for you. That's what I wanted to get at is that word intentional for you? And I love that, because a plan feels more concrete.
Yeah.
This
Stick
is our
to the
plan.
Stick to the plan.
And it's very you're in a box.
Yeah.
And if you're, I love that.
Yeah.
So that's intentional.
Yeah.
So you've kind of veered course within your...
It's just kind of the way I kind of do things.
Yeah.
It's just kind of more my personality, I think.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. I kind of feel the same way here at Resolve. I mean, it's a video agency. You've got all the equipment, but you having the ability to veer course if you need to, based on the economy, based on the market, based on needs, based on whatever. So that's really cool.
Also, I think it also speaks to your willingness to want to learn 24/7. And so, because you can't change direction if you're not willing to digest new information.
Yeah. And so where do you learn information from? Are you getting it from other team members? Are you an avid reader? How are you learning?
It's a lot of team members. I'm on a round table, which I value very much and highly suggest. I've had a board.
Are they people outside of your...
Outside of my industry, yeah.
Okay.
And so we meet monthly, and it's a CEO roundtable. Mm-hmm. And I've had a board of advisors. And then obviously all the trade rags and all of that stuff that's out there.
Yeah. And you're just keeping your pulse on all of it. Yeah. No, that is important though, to always learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's a mindset that it's every conversation you're having with a team member. It's not you don't say, I'm going to learn today, and go set out to learn.
Right.
You just have a curious mind.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
I want to hear a little bit more. You also made a point to say, keeping kind of everybody in the office where you guys are all working together. Yeah. How does that help shape your culture?
Yeah. So I would say a couple things. One is, I do believe that corporate America is doing a disservice to our youth that are 30 and under by providing so much work from home flexibility that I think, everybody is very nervous to tighten that down today because they think they're going to lose people. So what they do is then they ask the people, what do you want to do? Right. And those that are younger have no idea what they're giving up by saying they want their flexibility.
There's a lot that they're giving up.
But they don't know what it is. We know, because we were there at hindsight. We know what the value of being in the office has.
Yeah.
I can also understand when you're 30 plus and you're starting maybe, a family, and, flexibility is important, and it's a competitive market out there. So you want to be able to provide that.
Yeah.
But if you're 30 and under, I think it's a disservice not sharing. Like, think about the hallway experience that I just mentioned to you. Like, how was that supposed to happen if I'm working from my home and that individual was working from their home? I'm not so sure. Little nuggets like that come out. And so for us, we have we are in the office 4 days a week, and you have 1 day a week where you can be remote.
And that's a flexible day, or is everybody gone the same day?
It's a flexible day, but
interesting. Yeah.
It's kind of funny how it always seems to be Friday.
Huh.
Yeah, it seems to always be around Friday. So it's a little flexible.
We've been actually discussing work from home policies internally here at Resolve, because we are a in-person organization.
Yeah.
Actually, when I was interviewing, well, I say interviewing, that's a loose term if we think about what I was actually doing. We were mutually together, and I was, we were talking about if I were to come work for Resolve. And one of my questions was, are you in person?
Yeah.
I can no longer be home.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. And it was 2021 when I joined Resolve, and it was so important because if I was going to come into a newer industry, I needed to be around the experts and the people that were going to teach me all about video, because I don't feel comfortable helping to grow a company where I don't understand the freaking product.
Yeah. I have my oldest daughter works in New York City, and she's in the advertising space, and she was working with a global top tier agency that had a work from home policy.
Yeah.
And I did not believe that nobody was in the office. So she went into the office one day, turned on her phone, said, "Here you go, Dad. I'm showing you this, 10,000 square feet of empty cubicles, and I'm the only one in the office today."
Oh my gosh.
And she left and went to another competing agency that had a better kind of work environment, because they were in office.
Yeah.
My son feels the same way, who works in DC.
Yeah.
He does not want to be, remote 100%. He wants that social interaction. He understands the value of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think for the younger people, you learn so much. I can't, maybe talk about your experience, but in my background, if I didn't go to the office and just ask questions, constantly ask questions. I worked with developers in my previous role. And if I did not ask the questions that I asked them on a very regular basis, I could not have sold, solutions to technology problems. I wouldn't have known how to solve those technology problems. But it's just interesting. So what is your background? You said brand consulting, right?
Well, yeah. So
what did you do?
So I went to UC for undergrad and Xavier for grad school.
That's competing.
I always win.
Yeah, right.
And so for the first 10 years out of undergrad, I worked in the marketing department at Gold Star for the family biz. And then got married, had a kid, went to grad school, and then left the family biz and went to kind of chase the little .com kind of wave there. And for a couple years, and that came crashing down.
Yeah.
So I found myself now with a second kid and unemployed and a new house, and too much pride to go back to the family business.
Sure. Not yet.
I remember my mom was like, "What are you doing? Why are you leaving?" I'm like, "It's all right. Don't worry about it." She was all nervous.
Yeah.
But, and then ended up working with a design firm in town. That was Lipson Alport Glass and Associates.
Okay.
And I was there for about 8 years and helped to kind of build their private brand and retail brand kind of consulting group. And then from there went and became the CEO of Buffalo Wings and Rings, which was a local company and was a turnaround. So spent about 5 years there, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and kind of helped to kind of turn that brand around. And I think they're off and running. And that's when that window became available to potentially go back. And, I was actually looking for my own business to buy at that point.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, wait a minute here. I already own a business over here. And what am I doing looking for this business over here? So I said, well, let me see if I can get in there and take my experiences and see if I can apply them to this business.
Yeah.
So I ended up back at Gold Star.
What do you think has been the biggest lesson you've learned so far since 2015? Wow. Like, is there since any like big, like, man?
I think there's a conviction is an interesting kind of like, if you believe in what you're doing, you got to go all in.
Yeah.
There were a lot of naysayers along the way who opted not to join us on this journey.
Sure.
And I think now in hindsight, they can see that maybe that wasn't the best decision. And none of it could be possible without having great people that are equally as passionate about the direction that you are. And so we've really had great people. I've had great support from the board, and the shareholders have been amazing. But to get to I think you can't make bold change without giving something up.
Ooh.
So don't be fearful of giving something up if you want to get a more bold result. And so what we gave up was maybe the chance of speed of service, maybe losing what you were known for. Like, you're all about chili, and now you're saying, hey, we're going to also be about burgers, and that's risky. And what, you're going to even remove the name from the logo? I mean, those were like big, both strategic and emotional decisions to make.
Those are bold decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I couldn't be more proud of those decisions.
That's awesome. I mean, that sounds awesome too. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of disruption that you've made in the space.
Yes. And disruption for me is what strategy is all about.
Yes. Yeah. We talk about that here a lot, actually. And I was also, maybe this is silly to ask, but what were the things like the messaging coming out from Skyline? I mean, you have to know people at Skyline, right?
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of known,
Look, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but I think, they do what they do very well.
Yeah.
And I think they stick to it. And I think to their credit. And
but there's been this like competitive spirit throughout the years where it was even publicized as part of like the UC Xavier basketball game. You've got Skyline and Gold Star going up against each other. It's just been that way for so many years. Yeah. And now you're kind of like, well, go ahead, because we've got other things going on.
Yeah, I think ultimately our competitive set is bigger than Skyline.
It is now,
right?
Yeah.
And then also, if you're going to expand outside of Cincinnati, which is what everybody's trying to do, how do you crack that nut?
Yeah.
And there are a lot of variables involved with that, whether it's the investment, whether you need to have a drive-through or not, because in Cincinnati, we have drive-throughs everywhere.
Sure.
We kind of started that drive-through craze, and so now it's become the standard. Well then, but now if I go out of town, do I still need a drive-through?
Interesting.
Because building a location with a drive-through or finding a strip center with a drive-through end cap it gets more challenging, especially when Panera wants a drive-through and now Chipotle wants a drive-through.
Everybody wants a drive-through.
Everybody wants a drive-through.
Right.
So there's so many variables in trying to expand outside of Cincinnati, beyond the menu and beyond the brand, that have to come into play somehow. You know,
Yeah.
my hope is that technology is going to make kind of the idea of a drive-through not necessarily so mandatory, and that and it's happening a little bit today where you have curbside pickup and things like that. I think if we can pull that off and now find a less expensive space to be in, you know, maybe that kind of, you know, can meet us halfway maybe.
Do you feel like Gold Star's leaning into technology? I mean, as we just continue to thrive in environments where digital and AI, or I mean, just this whole idea of even maybe there's a drone service that will start to deliver our food. Who knows?
Right. Who knows?
That could be cool.
You know, my kids seem to love delivery. You know, when they're getting a dozen of donuts at, you know, midnight delivered for like $45. But
there's a lot of surcharges going on here. I
still fight the urge, so I get in my car and I go get it.
Right.
But yes, we do. You know, a lot of chains have multiple point of sale platforms. We have one. We've always had one. We've had great cooperation with our franchisees. We just now installed, by the end of last year, installed brand new point of sale. And the point of sale is really kind of the data hub of each of our locations. And then looking at that information and beginning to analyze the data that we're getting from that, as well as, you know, building upon a potential loyalty program, et cetera, are some things that we're working on.
Yeah, I mean, because you've got the fanatics who want the T-shirts and the hats, and I mean, that's a loyalty.
Champions. Yeah.
Those are champions. Yeah. My parents fall under that.
That's great.
They are. It's funny. There's actually a separation in the family of who likes the Skyline versus who likes the Gold Star.
Yeah.
But again, with this whole new expanded menu, it totally changes the category, which is the coolest part about it. Yeah. So, what should we be excited about with you? What's next?
Wow. What's next?
Yeah.
It's a good question. You know, we still have about 8 or 9 locations that we're going to be remodeling. So those communities are going to get the expanded menu as well as a updated and upgraded physical location. We just opened up our Western Hills location, which is just crushing it.
Great.
And I think, you know, we have the opportunity to open up 10 to 15 more locations in Cincinnati. And so we are looking for franchise candidates that are interested in taking that journey with us. We're very confident about who we are, what we offer. We believe that we have a very competitive brand. We feel like we have all the systems in place. I think I would keep an eye out for what we're going to do with tech.
That's all
I can say. That's all I can say.
Man, maybe off camera you'll give me more hints. But I was really curious about that.
You know, you've gotta poke and prod in that area.
And you're willing to, again, disrupt and be bold. So I'm sure for you, you just are willing to look at some of those technologies and think like, how can we?
How do we turn this on its head?
How do we do this? Gas pedal down. And Tom and Chee, right? Like that's another interesting brand. That
a little different story there. They're Cincinnati. They were born here in Cincinnati, and you know we're on Shark Tank and a lot of other kind of Food Network shows, and we acquired them in 2017. They were running into a few struggles at the time. And COVID was not friendly to that brand. They did not have drive-thrus. And for Gold Star, the drive-thrus really kind of saved the day, if you will. Not only did you have more locations that were not available to consumers at that time, a lot of them didn't have drive-thrus as well. And so Tom and Chee did not have drive-thrus, and they didn't, pivoting in some locations to curbside pickup and all that stuff was challenging. So we lost some franchisees along the way in a lot of cities. And so we regrouped We acquired all the locations in Cincinnati, so they're all corporately owned now.
Got it.
We just also married a Gold Star and a Tom and Chee in one facility.
Oh.
So we dual branded
There you go.
that location out in Anderson. We've got another one in the works, which is really kind of interesting. We just opened up Tom and Chee in Kings Island, which is crushing it. We took over an old Chick-fil-A. We kicked the chick out, and now we're serving melts. And
is chicken one you'll stay away from? Gold Star's not going to go for the chicken.
We have a fried chicken sandwich that's compared that I would put up against anybody else's.
Okay.
So it's
I feel
really
like Resolve
good.
needs to do like a taste challenge. We need to.
Let's do that.
We need to do that.
Yeah,
we absolutely need to do that.
Absolutely. You know, what's funny? We've won so many blind taste tests by even the chefs in Cincinnati. They put together like 4 or 5 leading chefs in Cincinnati and did a blind taste test, and we came out on top.
On which categories?
Chili, on the chili side.
Okay.
On the chili side.
I feel like it'd be
interesting.
interesting.
We'll do chili burgers. We'll come in very hungry. We'll do whatever you want.
Yes.
We'll do garlic parm fries. We'll do chili cheese fries.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the best in the city.
We'll have to pull that
Our
off.
cheese conies also are like the freaking best in the city.
Okay, I just have to do this. We'll talk to Scott. We'll bring the cameras.
We'll do it.
We'll make it a thing.
Yeah,
we'll make it a thing. It'll be a lot of fun. We'll come hungry. We have a lot of hungry people here.
Yeah.
I can't wait to try this. This is going to be great. Yeah, but at Kings Island, it was one of those things where we are avid Kings Island people. We live up in Westchester, so we're super close. And my son is very happy about that because on his dining plan, he's always
right.
But it's one of those things where like, you know, my daughter wants to go one way. My husband and I want to go to the nicer Kings Island restaurant. And my son is always like, you got to pass by Tom and Chee for my grilled cheese, Mom. Yeah.
There you go. Love it.
It's so fun. Yeah. I love this brand. I'm so excited for you. There's just been so much to watch over the last several years.
It's been fun. It's to, I still get excited about work. I still get excited about going.
Every day you wake up and you're
fun.
excited.
It's fun. And I work with great people. So it's great. Yeah.
I mean, does anything bring you down? What brings you down?
Oh gosh. The weather. The weather brings me down.
Yes.
So I'm getting out of town for a little bit.
And everybody should.
No, I'd say I'm a fairly positive person.
Yeah.
And kind of see the upside in things.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I really appreciate you coming on.
My pleasure.
To the podcast. It's always so fun. I love hearing everyone's stories. This is why we do it.
Yeah.
And your story is definitely unique. And thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm flattered.
I can't wait for our new
taste test. I know, right?
Thanks, Roger.
That'll be great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh my God, Jesse, I'm so hungry.
I mean,
I while you were doing that interview with him, I literally was on my phone door dashing some Gold Star.
Right?
Hopefully it's here soon.
No, here's the deal. Hey, listeners, if you made it this far, you went through an entire amazing episode to hear about the backstory of Gold Star chili, now turned Gold Star. And you are now definitely in love with Roger David, like we are. But the thing is we talked about food for the entire hour leading up to noon. It is noon right now, and I'm starving.
It's cruel almost
It's
that
almost
we did this to ourselves.
Yeah. He's going to redeem us though, in the sense that we're going to have a taste test and we're going to taste the garlic parm fries. Are you kidding? My stomach's growling. The cheeseburgers, the double bacon cheeseburger that his fitness trainer said is totally fine to eat if you're working out. And then we're going to do the chicken sandwich.
I'm just going to make noises.
I'm melting in deliciousness.
Sounds so good.
I know. Well, you get to eat that. And I'm just going to sit here and watch you eat it because I forgot to order because I was doing an interview, Steve. Thanks a lot.
Hey, voyeurism is a group activity. So come on over.
But I mean, what an amazing person. He really came into this family business and just shook the trees, got disruptive. I love that he talked about having a strategic direction versus a strategic plan. Mm-hmm. And it was intentional that he talked about that. So for marketers listening, I love that he left it open so that he could go in different directions as he was going, as he was making some of these decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely someone who is not afraid to get into it and just mess things up and make things better because of it. And I think I could listen to his stories all day, like I said.
Yeah.
He's just an interesting person to talk to because he's kind of soft-spoken, but you can see that twinkle in his eye.
He has a twinkle.
He's a little ornery. He's always thinking. And I love that about him.
He kind of reminds me of like a Bob Iger or even like a Walt Disney, where they do have that very grounded sense of, okay, let's make something big happen. And you can see that twinkle in their eye. I don't know. He's just, he's our Walt Disney here in Cincinnati, I guess.
He's making dreams come true.
He's making magic with menus at Gold Star. All right, let's cut this off because I'm starving.
I gotta go eat.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Hey, guess what? You made it to the end of the podcast. That's awesome. And you know what you get for that? You get more content. Check out this content from the Resolve team, all about Rediscover Your Story podcast content right here. You click on it, you might get a treat. Find out. Steve, make it stop.